Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Parkinson's Disease and Movement Disorder Society, I welcome you for today's webinar on our caregiving experience, challenges, and learnings. And we are very happy to have two distinguished speakers with us, Sara and Mrs. Leong from the Malaysian Parkinson's Disease Association. Parkinson's Disease and the Movement Disorder Society is an all-India charitable society working towards improving the lives of people with Parkinson's and their families in India since 2001. Let's have a look at some of the activities of PDMDS before and during the pandemic of COVID-19. Screen. You. So only for the sorry, really sorry, and apologies for the initial disturbance because of the technical error. But for those who missed the video, we would just like to tell you that Parkinson's Disease and Movement Disorder Society runs support group sessions for people with Parkinson's, and we provide free online therapy to people with Parkinson's and their caregivers, and also the individual phone counseling. So now let's move on to our today's webinar. And I invite Dr. Maria Baretto, the CEO of Parkinson's Disease and Movement Disorder Society, to welcome the guest for today's webinar.
Thank you, Tejali. On behalf of Dr. Singhal and the PDMDS, it is such a pleasure and privilege for me to welcome our speakers for today, Sara Lew and Mrs. Leong. Two people who, through their exemplary life, have brought so much meaning to the phrase, the joy of caring. Mrs. Leong holds a master's degree in business administration and is the vice president of the Malaysian Parkinson's Disease Association. She has been with the association from the time her husband, Mr. Leong, was diagnosed with Parkinson's a decade ago and is actively involved in its work. My dear friend Sara Lew is the president of the Malaysian Parkinson's Disease Association and has been serving the association for the past 26 years. She became involved in 1995 because of her late father, who had Parkinson's for 21 years before he passed away in 2011. Sara was a recipient of the WPC Robin Elliott Award for service to the community at the 5th World Parkinson's Congress in Kyoto. She holds a BA honors degree in sociology and anthropology and a master's degree in English as a second language. I have known Sara for more than a decade, and we have spent a lot of time together at the several conferences, both global and regional, that we have been attending. She radiates happiness and joy in everything she does. We look forward to learning from both of you on your journey with caring and the initiatives you have undertaken to make the Malaysian Parkinson's Disease Association a vibrant family of people with Parkinson's and their carers. Welcome and thank you for being here today.
Over to you, Sara.
Thank you, Dr. Maria, for your kind introduction, and thank you, PDMDS for having us today. It is our honor and pleasure to be the speakers today.
May I start sharing the screen?
Yeah.
Yes, sure. Can you see this well?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. This is the first one. Can you go to the next one? That's my father, my late father. Okay. I just like to add a little bit more to the introduction. And besides being a caregiver to my late father, my father's older sister, who is 96 years old now, is also living with Parkinson's for the past 15 years. And what I am today is also because of the people who are behind me, my community member, especially the office bearers, and I have 10 of them, and they are mostly people with Parkinson's or caregivers, and we work as a team, and we love each other, and also we are based in Kuala Lumpur. Next, please. And what I'm going to do today, the overview is how I began my journey as a carer and how I got involved with MPDA. And I shall also talk about our association, MPDA, and its journey and what we do. And also, I will also touch about the carers in our association and the roles they play in it. And of course, as a support group, we run activities, rehabilitative activities, and educational activities, and many more. And what I will do at the end of my my talk will be a video presentation, and it is it is in the nutshell of what we do, and it comes with a song called Hero. And in a way, I would like to say that the hero here also refers to all our Parkinson's warriors out there. Yeah, it will come in the later part. And next, please. And so my journey with as a caregiver and my work in MPDA begins with my father, and it goes back to somewhere late 1980s. My father was around late 50s, and he showed signs of like slowness. And I remember that he always complained about pain, but we didn't know what it was. We couldn't pinpoint his problem, and we only thought that it was arthritis. And but later he went to China twice, and it was in Beijing during his second visit that he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And when he returned home, he sought treatment at our hospital here. And the first few years, when my father was diagnosed with Parkinson's, I noticed that he actually went through some depression, but the change came when he started to accept the condition, acceptance of the disease, and then he started to become active, and he involved in Tai Chi, he did gardening, and he was okay. And with Tai Chi and gardening, it helps to improve his mobility. And I think gardening is also very good for him because, with the squatting, growing vegetables, you plant the seed, you wait for the seed to sprout, and then you wait for the harvest, and then you grow again. And it's something that he looks forward to every day. And at that time, my mom was always with him. She ran along with him for his Tai Chi, and also they work side by side in the garden, doing their gardening. And then later, my father joined the Malaysian Parkinson's, and then he continued with life as usual. But I just go quickly to the last part of his years. He had glaucoma, which we didn't know. We thought that it was just what they call cataract, but my father lost his sight the last 7 years of his life, and he became more dependent, and that was the time that he really needed care, and his wheezing was very, very dominant at night. He couldn't get up, so we had to take care of him. And I come from a big family. I have 4 married brothers, but they come by to take care of him. But my mother, although we could have a helper to help, but my mother is of the traditional person, and she was afraid that if we do so to have a maid to take care of my father at night, she was afraid that we would let go. So I think filial piety is something that we Asians do often. So as part of we honor our parents, so we took turns to take care of our father at night. We change his diapers and in the morning we wash him and put on the fresh diapers before he could get on with his day. And diapers, initially my father didn't want to have diapers, but we used the urinal, but it was pretty tough because you have to carry him out, and it was tough for me because I wasn't as big size as my brothers. So later we had to change to diapers, but that was not without much problem, because my mother was very resistant towards this change from just doing the urinal to diapers. And after 21 years, and somewhere end of 2010, my father suffered a brain injury. We didn't know that he had a fall, and he was sleeping all the time. I think he had a fall, but he picked himself up, but he didn't tell us. So he keeps, he kept sleeping, and we realized something was not right, and we took him to the hospital, and there was fluid in his brain. And after 2 weeks, the doctor did a brain surgery on him, and he died the next day, and on January 8th, 2011. I would like to touch a little bit about primary carer versus secondary carers. I was secondary carer together with my brothers and sisters. And initially, in the early stage of my father's condition, they were younger. My father had Parkinson's at 60 years old, and my mother was younger as well. And during that journey, my mother was able to take care of my father. And we were kind of like at the back seat, except for taking my father to the hospital. But as the time goes by, because my father has a long duration of Parkinson's, so as the years move by, my mother gets older, the carer gets older, my father's condition progress more so we have to change roles, and that's where the children have to come in and step in and step out. And and my mom, she was okay in the beginning, but as the toll of caregiving took over her, she also became very very depressed at the end of it. Next, please. Yeah, how I got involved in MPDA, and actually it was somewhere late 1994. That was the first Malaysian Parkinson's Disease Association, the first one in the country, held a meeting, and it was advertised in the newspaper. And my father read it. It was in the Chinese newspaper. So my father asked me to be his driver and interpreter, and I couldn't say no to my father, of course. And so I took him there, and because it was conducted in English, so I had to translate to him, and of course I have to listen to every word, and with that I could understand Parkinson's more. And in 1996, I was called by one of the committees to help them in writing minutes and help them in the association. And at the time I was working as in a bank, and I was really focused in my career, but because I couldn't say no, because I was thinking, here I am, able-bodied, and there's a person with, disabilities asking me to help. I couldn't say no, and as it goes, the rest is history. Next, please. So about MPDA, and if you look at the stamp on the right-hand side, just for the benefit of non-Malaysians, Malaysia is divided into two parts. There's the Peninsula Malaysia that's linked to Thailand, and it's over the other side. We have the Borneo Island. We have two states, that's Sabah and Sarawak. And at the moment, at this point in time, we have 5 support groups, including Malaysian MPDA. And MPDA was formed on 12 September 1994, and it was the first Parkinson's support group in the country. And it is called a non-government organization. We are not profit oriented, and we are run by 11 office areas, like I said before. And it's not funded by the government, and we rely solely on public donations. And we are not like PDMDS. We do not have branches, and we operate as a separate entity. However, if people from other states and somebody showed interest to start a support group, we will very gladly, support them by hosting public forum. And for some of the established support group in other states, we even give them some money to kickstart the association. So because due to what you call human resources, we're not able to run, to have branches. So it's best that they have a separate entity. So as there are 5 active support groups in the country, 3 over the other side in East Malaysia, and 3 in Peninsular Malaysia. Okay, next please. So as a support group, MPDA provide educational activities and rehabilitative programs like, speech therapy, voice rehabilitation, and educational activities through public forums. And we promote Parkinson's awareness also through that outlet. And also we support research. We support universities, we support hospitals, and if they have any students who have research, they could use our members as subject. They would come to our association and do their research. And as an organization, MPDA, which is the largest in the country, we want to use our voice to do advocacy work, so to improve healthcare benefits, so that to improve the quality of life of people with Parkinson's. And earlier I said that we are not funded by the government. So what we do is to collaborate with healthcare professionals, healthcare provider, universities, and other organizations where they send the expertise, the healthcare professional, to come to our association, and then they conduct all these rehabilitative programs, and we don't have to pay. A case in point is like we collaborated with International Medical University once, and they provide free dental care, free physiotherapy, and chiropractic, for a couple of years, but of course it stopped now. So that is the way for us to sustain. Next, please. Next. Oh, can you go back a little bit? If you see the picture, that is our first committee member. The picture was taken years later, and standing, I couldn't see my, standing on at the back, second from the right, is actually Mr. Leong Chun Tak, Mrs. Leong's husband, and he was one of the founding members of MPDA. And at the time, he actually did it for his mother. His late mother had Parkinson's disease, but years later, almost about 15 years, isn't it, Mrs. Leong? And Mr. Leong has Parkinson's disease. So we have to thank Mr. Leong for taking the effort together with the rest. Next, please. So this is our Parkinson's Center. I always say that it is not the best place, but we do the best with whatever that we have. And in the first 10 years of our existence, we do not have a center. We operate at the hospital. We get complimentary usage of their halls. But back in 2005, we decided to rent a place somewhere, also somewhere in the southern part of Kuala Lumpur, so that we have a place where a secretariat, so that we have something like for a central administration. And we stay in this place. It's a corner lot. We have a place at the side. Afterwards, when you see the video, you can see that space, this outdoor space, is being used as our activities, like drumming and other activities. And it's just a residential. It's located in a residential area. And in around 2013, the landlord wanted to sell the property. So we decided to purchase the property. We did a fundraising, and thank God, within 6 months, we managed to raise the fund and we purchased the property. And we rented because it's not really big. So we actually rented the one on the right, and we are still occupying these both places. And we do a lot of things here. And next, please. So what are our major milestones? And I would say that tax-exempt status, because with tax-exempt status, that's where the donors to our association, they are tax exempted for the money they donated to us. So when we had that in 2005, there was actually a spike in donation from the corporate organization, and bigger organization got involved, donated to us. And of course, it is our own building, because at least we are secured. We do not have to fear that you will be vacated anytime. So I think that was one of the best things that happens to us. And the other one is the recognition of Parkinson's awareness. Parkinson's as a disability, because prior to 2012, people with Parkinson's, they are not recognized as Parkinson's as people with disability. But with this disability status, our members are entitled to free medical from the government hospital, most medication, and they also get subsidized public transport and many more. The other thing is that with the disability status, for those who are less financially sound, they can actually apply from the welfare department, the welfare fund. It's a couple of hundred. And also it's very beneficial for people who are especially below 60 years old, who do not have the senior citizens. In Malaysia, senior citizens to get free medication in hospitals. But for those people who are below 60s, if they do get this disability benefit status, they do get free subsidized public transport. Otherwise, they have to pay the full sum. Next, please. Yeah. I go to the next topic, and it says the carer's role in MPDA. I think the most important thing that carers do is sharing and caring, and they are the most important and the most valuable assets for people with Parkinson's, because carers help with the activities of daily living. They take care of the management of medication, and they are they give the emotional support. They do a lot of things. And also, they are like the liaison between the patient and the doctors, the eyes and ears for doctors. And what about them at our association? And because ours is a support group, and our members comprise mostly people with Parkinson's and the caregivers, and with their background, in the professional area, and also their caregiving experience, they play a key role in the running of MPDA. And also they are like the cheerleader, they coming together, they provide a sense of community. And as an association, that we run like a family, at our Parkinson Center, we have a little garden, and at our activities, weekly activities before the pre-pandemic, after the activities, it is just like a little a celebration, a family celebration. We cook at our kitchen, and then our caregivers they come together and we cook, and then we have a big feast for about 60 to 70 people, and all our our carers here, they are volunteers, and it's really nice for them to get together, helping each other. Next, please. And activities for carer, yeah. You see, most of our activities are for people with Parkinson's. Of course, indirectly, we also bring together people, the carers and other supporters. But to really hold and organize activities just solely for carers, I'm afraid that it hasn't been so successful, because our carers, they usually aren't able to get out, and leaving their loved one at home. So we, in terms of workshops and all this, attendance is rather small. But then we rely on informal sharing of information, where the carers come together for activities, sometimes at the sidelines, they get together and talk, where also the people with Parkinson's, they also get together in another corner, they talk. So it's really very heartening to see that such interaction, carers, people with Parkinson's, and then a mixed batch, and that's the purpose, of getting them together in a support group. So as you can see the picture, this one, we actually organized a carers workshop, but on and off, you will see the carers calling them, because they are on the other side of the building, So, and attendance, you don't get them, the 2 days, you don't get full attendance. There will always be some. But as the bottom picture, you can see that when they come together, carers and caregivers, they just sit together and talk and share experience. They talk about everything, from medication to everything. Next, please. Yeah, what are the challenges? And of course, as I said earlier, we do not have funding from the government. So we always have to be very careful with our funding. And we are also always lack of human resources. And as you can see our place, sometimes it's very difficult to hire staff. They come and go quite very often, so this is one of the challenges. And also, we are in the capital, we are in Kuala Lumpur, in the capital of Malaysia. And reaching out to the rural areas is also difficult, and in part is also because of the transportation. They are also underserved in that area. And of course, another thing is that we would like to have more participation from people with young onset PD, those people with Parkinson's, who are diagnosed with Parkinson's below the age of 50. Somehow, in the early stage of diagnosis, they tend to stay away, So we hope that they will come out and join us more, and also the Parkinson's Plus group as well. Okay, next. What are our future plans? And I say that our buildings is actually quite old, and we are planning actually to renovate our present single-story premises to a double-story. This is actually just a picture. If we could have a double-story, and we will provide there will be an additional of at least 3 times the size of our own building on the left-hand side, just not in the picture. So if we could have this place, then we could do more, like we have staying, the physiotherapies and all these more activities, rehabilitative activities, and we get a bigger crowd than to have people crammed in the small space. So this is our future plan. And next, please. Yeah, so we're going to go into our video, and you take note about activities, the connectivity, the togetherness, the activities run at our center. You can also see collaboration. You can also see that people, the members encouraging each other. Once they see other people doing this thing, they just come together and just as one, and it's really nice. And the song is dedicated to all people with Parkinson's. You are a Parkinson's warrior. You are a hero. Okay, thanks. Next.
Inside your heart, you don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer if you reach into your soul, and the sorrow that you know will melt away. The strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth, that a hero lies in you. The that a hero lies in you.
Wow, that was amazing, Sara. Really touching, and we're looking forward to our next speaker, Mrs. Leong.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, that was a nice video. Thank you. And first of all, I want to thank Dr. Maria and PDMDS for inviting us and giving us the opportunity to share some of the things that we do and my journey. I think as we know, Parkinson's is a designer disease, so different patients will experience, different symptoms, different progression, and so are the caregivers' experiences. However, I hope that today I'm in sharing my journey with my husband, that you might find interesting things or things that might be helpful in your journey.
May I start the share screen?
Yes, please.
Can you see this clearly?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, next slide. So by way of introduction, my name is Mrs. Leong CT, and I am wife and caregiver to Mr. Leong. Mr. Leong has been with Parkinson's for 16 years. And as you saw in Sarah's introduction, she pointed out that Mr. Leong was actually one of the founding members of MPDA, but at that time was in the context of helping my mother-in-law, his mother, who had Parkinson's. Unfortunately, he himself has Parkinson now as well. We live in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and we are a family of 3 children. We have 2 boys and a girl. They're all grown up and they're all working. Next slide, please. Okay. To share my journey, I have divided the journey into, 3 different steps. And I would start the journey from the early years. So Mr. Leong has had Parkinson's for 16 years, and I would say the early years are from maybe year 1 to around the 8th year. It was, honeymoon time, because in the early years, the symptoms were not so serious. So we continued with active working, both he and I, and life was as normal as it could be. So that was also the time where we were busy with our children when they were young. I would say that during those years, it was also a little bit of denial that, the diagnosis of Parkinson's is not a positive diagnosis. So there's no like blood tests or cancer markers, It's more elimination of what is not there. So, there was, during the early years, there's always a hope that maybe it won't get bad, Then we progress to the middle years, maybe from years 9 to about 12. Mr. Leong started to slow down because the symptoms became more obvious. The freezing, the slower movements, some speech, and then the realization that, we are progressing along the journey. And that's also around the time where support groups became important, and where we took a more active part in Parkinson's Association and the association's programs which were really a great help because in the association, there were Parkinson patients and carers who were at various stages in their journey. So you could learn a lot from talking to other carers and other Parkinson's patients of things that they do or are doing, that is helpful, things that are, things that you should avoid. So that was when, you actually appreciate the importance of support groups like MPDA. We are now in the later years, 13, he's now 16 years patient, and the symptoms are more severe. He has, both of us are now retired. So we are more at home, which has got its own challenges. And there is acceptance, I think more acceptance now that we have got to work with whatever we are able to do. And at this stage, support is even more critical to help with some of the, the symptoms and the experiences that we are having. Next, please. Okay, so as far as challenges, I have divided into two. So maybe you look at the challenges to the patient first, because that directly impacts what the caregiver needs to do. So my husband now is in the later stages, and his speech is not very clear, and his voice is soft. Facial expressions are also not so expressive. He used to be a very funny person. He doesn't tell jokes so much nowadays. Used to be very cheeky, but doesn't blink so much nowadays. So, hard to tease. His gait is getting to be more restrictive, freezing, and there is has fallen a few times. He has difficulties in some difficulty in swallowing, which affects appetite. Excessive salivation, so there's the drooling. Constipation is a big challenge, and I don't know about other carers, but this is something that we didn't anticipate would be so difficult. So we have to find a way around it. Depression and anxiety, although I say for my husband, he's by nature a very quiet person, so he doesn't show his depression and his anxiety. Sleep disorders, yes. So sometimes there are bad dreams, which causes him to not have good night's sleep, which means that on the next day, he'll be very tired. And hallucinations and psychosis, which can become a big problem because I don't see it, but he may be seeing people around the house, things in his food, insects, and these become challenges to the caregiver. Next, please. Okay, so as a caregiver, there are two perspectives to the challenges. One is, of course, the physical part. So the physical part, which includes medication, making sure that medication is taken in the correct dosages and timing, feeding, because there is, sometimes no appetite, don't want to eat, bathing, because we have got to help him to bathe nowadays since he's not very stable, going to toilet, the constipation part, and obviously the moving around because of his not so stable movements and the freezing. And then there is the mental challenges for the caregiver, because as the hallucinations and the depressions and becomes more obvious. The support needs to be sometimes like looking after a child for those who have children. Sometimes, you know, it can become very just not necessarily logical, but still, you know, you need to support, assurance, and then motivation, because apathy is something that is that causes the patient to not want to do anything, don't want to sing. He used to love how to sing. He used to love to sing. Don't want to move. You know, sometimes don't even want to follow the programs that MPDA has organized. So these are some of the challenges. Next. On a positive note, though, I think caregivers all know that PD symptoms will become worse over time. However, you know, like I mentioned, it's a designer disease. So the speed of progression varies greatly from person to person. So the person that the patient you're looking after could be many years, but still feeling and behaving okay. Could be, you know, fast progression, and by 3 to 5 years is already very dependent. So some people may be only slightly disabled 20 years after PD begins, whereas others can be very disabled over 10 years. So varies. But although there's no cure for PD, proper management of the disease may allow the person with PD to lead an active life for as long as possible. I think this is where the caregivers play a very important role. Next. How to overcome. I have also divided the challenges to the 2 different areas. One area is medication-wise, and this is by far the easiest. And so that's, of course, making sure to manage the medicines properly in terms of dosages, timing changes, because I know, as most caregivers know, this is very important. And please do not leave it to the patient to manage it himself, because they forget whether they've taken their medication, whether they've taken 1 pill or 2 pills, you know. So I think this is a caregiver's key role, to make sure that the medicine is properly administered, and the timing can be critical. And also, in case there are any changes in medication, you need to help the doctor to do the titration. So changes in medication, as I've learned, better don't do it in a hurry. Has to be done over a long period of time, maybe half a pill to start before you progress to full pill, or especially if you are removing medication, better do it in stages as well, over a period of maybe a week, 2 weeks before you you know, remove it completely, because there are withdrawal symptoms. And then I think another part that the caregiver can help to overcome the challenges of getting of the patient getting proper medication is the feedback to the doctor. In the early years, my husband went to see the doctor himself. So I don't know what he said to the doctor, but when I started going with him to the doctor, I realized, what he may be telling the doctor maybe things that he's only experiencing maybe 1% of the time. But the doctor, being somebody that sees a patient only, I don't know about in India, but here in Malaysia, maybe once every 6 months or 3 months, it's hard to make an informed decision based on the 5 minutes that the patient talks to the doctor. So the caregiver really needs to go along for the doctor's visit and fill the doctor in on what's happening, and you know, as much detail as you can. Then we come to the non-medication side of the how to overcome the non-medication challenges. I think a key role is support organizations like MPDA and your organization in India, because it provides a place for caregivers and patients to go learn things, to learn from others' experience, to prepare for what's going to come, and also to keep whatever abilities that you have for as long as you can. For example, in MPDA, we have music therapy, which is very good because it engages the mind. And Mr. Leong loves to sing, so music is one of the ways that can bring him out of his apathy and to participate. And we also have this very kind lady. Her name is Kathy Cheong, and she leads a dance for PD group every week. And she is wonderful because she's, she picks songs that are very fun to move to. She moderates the movement so that the Parkinson's patients can follow and can also move to. And again, it is a means of, awakening the body. And the exercises help to keep the patient's muscles, and movements, at least to keep them active. The other non-medical way to overcome challenges is, I think family is very important too. We have 3 kids, and luckily they are all living and working in KL, Malaysia, where we stay. So they come by, they visit very often. Once a week, we have a family dinner, which is a nice time to get together. And I think Mr. Leong looks forward to those times very much. And of course, we gather for festivals, like the Chinese New Year, when we have lantern festivals, when we have the rice dumpling festivals, and those are important celebrations of family. Religion, I think, is important too, because religion provides, I think, a mental anchor and mental consolation, somewhere to go to, when you are in a deep dark place, both for the patient as well as for the caregiver. Next, please. Yeah, some picture. Here you see a picture of music therapy. So for music therapy, there's singing, obviously, engaging the vocal cords and exercises. But another added incentive and another added activity is that there is the MPDA. They have a singing choir called the MPDA Songbirds. They have composed a song as well with the help of University Pertanian music therapy professionals, and they go sing that at concerts. And I think it's a very nice time to go out into the public. So this is the MPDA Songbirds. Next. And trips, if you can, I think are very good for both the caregiver and the patient, because it's a change of environment and a change of scenery. So we were in Kyoto for the World Parkinson's Congress, and I think it was a very good trip, both for the patient as well as for me, the caregiver, because you got to meet a lot of people from other areas of the world. Doctor, unfortunately, I didn't get to meet you, but I think you were there. And you hear about things that other people are doing, which were things that we could bring back to our country to do. Not to mention also is that when you're in a different country, like in Kyoto, the culture is very different. There were so many interesting things to see and so many interesting things to experience. And I think for caregivers, handling the day-to-day caregiving, this is a respite that, and a time out that we need to also take for ourselves. Next, please. And participating in community events, I think, is also an enjoyable way of doing things, This is a walkathon organized by the Malaysian Spastic Association, and Sara gets us an invitation every year. So unfortunately, with COVID, for the past 2 years, there has been, of course, no walk. So hopefully, when it continues, when it resumes, then we will continue to participate. At this walkathon, you see other OKUs, the Orang Kurang Upaya, which is our disabled persons. You see people going to the walk in a bed, you know, those who are spastic, in wheelchairs, and it is a very, you know, it helps motivate you and think about what you can still do versus what you cannot do anymore. Next. So this is a little bit of sharing of my journey. I think the journey may be different for all caregivers, but I hope some of this sharing might be useful for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sara and Mrs. Leong, for that wonderful talk. And I'm sure that it was really reassuring for so many caregivers who are listening to us today. Because of the time limit, we have time only for a couple of questions. So there is a question from a caregiver, and we have also often seen that the relationship sometimes changes after the diagnosis of Parkinson's. So the relationship sometimes changes to patient and caregiver instead of your original relationship of a husband and wife or a daughter and father. So how would you suggest to how you can, you know, reassure that and maintain that healthy relationship, and also go back to your the original relationship even after Parkinson's? Any thoughts on that?
Sara, you want to start?
Sara, could you please unmute yourself?
I think for me, the relation is like daughter and father. And I think it is important that we continue to have the communication and the interaction. You can still do things that, you know, that you used to do. You know, you can go out together, or you can even go out to have breakfast, or, you know, you eat together. You can still maintain that and try to do things together, whatever that, you know, that you could, because of course, during the latest stage of the disease, when the progression, you know, curated, then there will be another level of interaction. You'll be more at home. Like in my case, like my father, he was blind at the end, and he couldn't see us. So the way for us to make him feel that he is not isolated, especially like in our conversation with family interaction, when we talk, we try to touch him. Even though when we call him, I think the grandchildren would go and hug him. I think you know, in the absence of sight, is the tactile relationship that you touch each other, and there are so many ways. It's all about communication and connectivity in the way that you know, to enhance the you know, or to maintain the relationship, and to make sure that he's not isolated and not alone.
Yes, I think that's really wonderful. Mrs. Leong, there's a question from a caregiver who thinks that her husband, who has been diagnosed with Parkinson's, has lost confidence after the diagnosis and has also lost the motivation to do any activities that he used to enjoy before Parkinson's. So would you like to give any tips in terms of how to encourage the patient with Parkinson's to do the activities that he used to enjoy before? And
I think it's a natural progression of the disease, and also part of the apathy that they will, you know, stop doing things that they enjoy doing. So as a caregiver, I think you use everything at your means, including, you know, lead, push, whatever, to get them to do things. And I think having activities, you know, like what MPDA organizes, gives you an opportunity and a forum to get them to do things. You know, like if there's singing on, you know, and it's Zoom on, So you sit them in front of the TV and hey, they're singing on. What excuse do they have not to move, you know? But you need to organize things, you know. And I also have things at home, like, you know, from there was this students from the university who did speech therapy. And there was this nice young man, Mr. Tang, who recorded, you know, a whole session of speech therapy. Now you open your mouth, now you say ooh, and now you say ah, and I recorded it, so I play it and make him listen and follow. So I guess as caregivers, it's sometimes not enough to encourage. It's sometimes time to lead by the hand and say, hey, do.
Yeah, that's nice. There's also a feeling shared by some of our caregivers that sometimes they feel guilty of not doing enough for their loved ones, and sometimes they also feel incapable and inadequate as a caregiver. So in your journey, have you ever felt this? And if so, how did you overcome this feeling of guilt that might be attached with the caregiving?
Sarah, you want to add something?
The internet was unstable, so I lost part of the question.
Okay. So sometimes the caregivers feel guilty of not doing enough for their loved ones, and they sometimes feel that they're inadequate or incapable as a caregiver. So in your journey of caregiving, have you ever felt this, and or if you have observed this feeling, and how would you think that it would be best possible way to tackle this feeling and overcome the guilt that might be attached with the caregiving?
I think we always, as caregivers, and you know, for loved ones, even if they aren't patient, we always want to give them the best, or because we love them, and we, you know. But sometimes we feel that we can't do it, and we just have to assure ourselves that we are just human. You know, we can only do what we can. We try our best, and sometimes we have to be really kind of like not put too much pressure on ourselves, because when we do, it is only give us more stress, and it will affect our relationship with the patient. So we just have to say that we are human. There are bad times too. There's off times too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that what Sarah said is very true. That we can only do our best. And sometimes when the going gets tough, maybe you have to walk away a little bit to give yourself a fresh perspective before you come back again. And as we talk about the symptoms, you know, the mask-like face, sometimes you feel that you're talking to a wall because, you know, there's no reaction, but you do the best you can. And every day we do this.
That was quite reassuring. Thank you so much for that. A last question, that as a caregiver, some of them may also feel the caregiver burden and the stress. So how important it is to take out time for yourself and ensure that you are, you know, physically and mentally keeping yourself active and well as well in the journey of as a caregiver.
Okay, let me take this. I think as caregivers, that should be your priority, that you keep yourself mentally and physically healthy, because if you are not, then you can't take care of the patient. So some of the ways that you can do this is, like here, MPDA organizes programs for the patient, but the caregiver is also there as well. So when the speech therapy is on, there's nothing to stop the caregivers from yelling their head off. Neither is there to stop the caregivers during dance for Parkinson to dance their, you know, dance crazily as well. So just do it. So take that opportunity to you know, give yourself some relief time as well. I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Mrs. Leong. I mean, I can see that in our association, and in coming together, the carers also make friends, and they not only see each other at the Parkinson Center, and you can see that they also spin off to a little group that they go outstation, they go out of town, they make little holidays together. So I think that kind of interaction is very good, to take time off, to join with people who understand you. I mean, if what better way than to be people like the caregiver and Parkinson's to be together, and when you go out to have time together, you can also share experiences. The other thing is also, if you really can't cope in the end, get a higher help. I mean, there are nurses who can come in just for a few hours per day, and that's the time when you can just, sometimes it's just in half an hour or even 1 hour, and you just get away. It is a big relief to your well-being. So get help if you can. If you don't get a long-term help, and like my aunt, she is 96 years old, and the way that we manage, the family manages her is different from our family. My family is a big family, and we have always stand by. With 9, I came from a family of 5 girls, 4 boys, and you always have that resources. And somebody is not free, then you have somebody to back up. But for my aunt, I mean, because she had the Parkinson's at the later stage in life, and so her children are also quite elderly. So, and this is small, she has only a smaller number of people. So they hire a helper full time to take care of her day and night. So, so it all depends on the situation too. So either you get help from your own family members or you hire help. And during that period when you're out, enjoy yourself and let loose, let your hair down. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think it was a wonderful evening for all of us who are listening to this talk today. Thank you once again, Sara and Mrs. Leong, for being here with us, and for that enlightening talk and such practical ways that you shared with all our caregivers out there. Dr. Baretto, would you like to say?
Yes, I see the similarity between what's happening here in India and in Malaysia. We have similar problems, we have similar challenges, and yet we have positivity. We look at things in the best possible way and do our best. The cornerstone of what you have been discussing and of your journey today have been 2 things: support and positivity. And I think it is these 2 things that are really going to help our caregivers. And I've heard this too from so many of them when they've shared their experiences. Yes, it's tough. Yes, it's challenging. And I honestly don't know how you do it so well. I admire you. I salute you. But the positivity that you bring to the situation, despite it all, has taught us, we as the PDMDS team, we do not experience, we understand what you go through, but we do not experience it. And therefore, we really are so grateful to every caregiver who walks this journey. And today, Mrs. Leong and Sara, you've taught us so much. And I'm sure our caregivers too have walked with you through this webinar, because there's been so much in common. Thank you very much. Thank you to the audience who's been here with us at this webinar, and to the PDMDS team for organizing it. Tejali, thank you so much for coordinating. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
So we often say that caregiving often calls us to lean into love we didn't know possible. And I think Sara, Mrs. Leong, and so many caregivers out there are living examples of this quote. And you all bring hope to the journey of a person with Parkinson's. And we do understand that the caregivers share very specific concerns, and they are the, like you said, they are the heroes in this journey of Parkinson's. So caregivers are these important support pillars for all the people with Parkinson's, and for them, we have started separate caregiver sessions at PDMDS. Like Sara mentioned in her talk that earlier we had some logistic difficulties, like they couldn't leave their loved ones at home alone and come for the caregiver separate sessions. But this pandemic and the online platform has given us this opportunity to reach out to people with caregivers of people with Parkinson's and use this online platform. So we have caregiver sessions and where we focus on the psychoeducation about Parkinson's, the symptoms, caregiving. We provide them some tips to manage the motor and non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's. But along with that, we also focus and help them provide a safe space where they can share their own concerns and issues and discuss and practice different ways of overcoming caregiver burden and stress. And this has led to people forming the mutual support system among the caregivers as well. So we have more than 250 caregivers who are regularly attending these caregiver sessions that we have started during the pandemic. These are some of the photos of our caregiver sessions, and a lot of caregivers have told us that this has been very important and useful for them, and they also look forward to each session that happens once a month. So if you are a caregiver of a person with Parkinson's, support is here. So you can definitely contact us on these contact numbers. You can send us an email, follow us on social media platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or visit our website. And this Parkinson's Awareness Month, we have some amazing webinars happening. Today was definitely an example of that. And the upcoming webinar is a webinar with a very famous dancer, David Leventhal, who is the program director of Dance for Parkinson's. And this is happening on the 24th of April, Saturday at 6:30 Indian Standard Time. And then we also have a webinar for the young onset people with Parkinson's, the young onset Parkinson's experiences and learnings from another two amazing young onset people with Parkinson's who are real inspirations. So please do register for these webinars. We are sending the links for registrations in the chat box. And if you want to avail any of the services, the free services by the PDMDS, please do get in touch with us. These are our contact details. And at the end, we would like to show a small video to celebrate the spirit of all our caregivers with at PDMDS. So.
किसका है ये तुमको इंतजार में हूँ ना, देख लो इधर तो एक बार मैं हूँ ना। किसका है ये तुमको इंतजार में हूँ ना, देख लो इधर तो एक बार मैं हूँ ना। खामोश क्यों हो, जो भी कहना है कहो, दिल चाहे जितना प्यार उतना मांग लो, तुमको मिलेगा उतना प्यार मैं हूँ ना। किसका है ये तुमको इंतजार मैं हूँ ना, देख लो इधर तो एक बार मैं हूँ ना।
Thank you once again to Sara, Mrs. Leong, for being here with us, and all the caregivers who have joined us and who always give shoulder to lean on to make the journey of people with Parkinson's a little easier, a little better, and a lot hopeful. Thank you once again. And we look forward to seeing you all for our next webinar happening on the 24th of April. Have a lovely day. Thank you.